Imagine waking up one morning feeling scattered, your mind jumping from one task to the next, and by evening, you realize you've barely made a dent in your day. You've poured coffee, scrolled social media, opened tabs, started emails, and yet the focus you thought you'd have never materialized. Maybe you've tried time blocking, mindfulness apps, or even strict schedules, but still end the day with a sense of incompletion. You're not alone, and that's where the truth behind atomic focus comes in. In atomic focus, breathwork and subtle physiological cues become your allies in reclaiming clarity and control. The author, Patrick McKeown, a world-renowned breath coach known for transforming athletes, executives, and chronic sufferers, reveals how we can harness something as simple as the breath, combined with small habit shifts, to break free from the chaos of distraction. His approach doesn't demand grand overhauls or willpower-breaking routines. Instead, he invites us to root our focus in the body, steering the mind through the most reliable anchor we already possess, each inhalation and exhalation. Picture Sarah, a junior architect struggling with constant interruptions, the hum of office chatter, the ping of emails, the looming deadlines. Traditional tricks like turning off notifications offered temporary relief. But when she adopted McKeown's breathing techniques, she discovered something more powerful, a way to call her mind back, moment by moment, to the task at hand. 5 breaths and she felt centered. 10 breaths and creativity returned. 20 breaths and she had structured an entire design proposal with renewed youth. In the introduction that follows, I'll share how McKeown sets the stage for this transformation, how he reframes focus not as a rare skill, but as an everyday discipline, anchored in the physical rhythms of breath. We'll explore his core question: what if mastering your focus doesn't start with your to-do list, but with a single, intentional breath? Stay with me because in the next few minutes, you'll see why atomic focus offers not just another productivity trick, but a foundation, a breath-based framework that can literally shape the way you think, work, and live. Section 1: The Breath-Focus Connection. Have you ever noticed the moment your mind snaps back just as you're about to doze off or drift during a meeting? That little jolt, your breath catching, is not just an accident. According to Patrick McKeown, it's a built-in reset, an untapped signal that anchors you to the present moment, ready for your attention to latch on. In this opening section, McKeown challenges our usual belief that focus is purely a mental muscle. Instead, he asserts it's deeply tied to our physiology, especially our breathing. It turns out, breath isn't just for survival. It's a visceral mechanism primed to stabilize our mind, sharpen our perception, and accelerate clarity. He starts with an eye-opening truth. Most of us breathe inefficiently, fast, shallow, and through our mouths, especially when stressed. That kind of breathing initiates a state of low-level panic in the body. Cortisol rises, the nervous system tilts toward fight or flight. Instead of feeling alert and ordered, we end up scattered and stressed. So our first barrier to focus is right under our nose, actually in our nose. McKeown then introduces the concept of focus points. These are simple, physical anchors, like the gentle touch of a fingertip, the feeling of air moving in your nostrils, or the rhythm of your chest expanding on an inhale. He demonstrates through his clients, CEOs, athletes, artists, how even a single breath, intentionally felt, can redirect attention back from distraction into presence. He describes one executive who, in the middle of an overwhelming presentation, deliberately placed a hand on his diaphragm and did 5 slow breaths. Within seconds, he regained composure, delivered the rest of his talk with poise, and described it as a reset of my inner operating system. Another story McKeown shares is of Layla, a violinist preparing for a high-stakes audition. The eyes, the audience, the stage lights, all fed her anxiety. Every rehearsal, she felt scattered. With McKeown's guidance, she started doing a 3-5-7 breathing pattern. Inhale for 3 seconds, hold for 5, exhale for 7, while imagining the bow in her hand. The result: her body relaxed, her mind stilled, and her music flowed with greater nuance. That small breath-based switch didn't take the pressure away, it shaped her response to it. From these cases, Patrick introduces the first core tool of atomic focus, anchored breathing. It's deceptively simple. Align your attention with your inhale, hold awareness at the apex, and follow your exhale, all through the nose. This isn't a yoga exoticism. It's a precise physiological technique grounded in science. Nose breathing increases nitric oxide, improves oxygen delivery, reduces arousal, and strengthens the diaphragm. It literally recalibrates your stress response, compressing your mind's chaos into crystalline attention. Then comes a guided exercise in the book, and here in your video, we'd pause. For 1 minute, breathe slowly through your nose, feeling the air move in, into the lower belly and back out. Notice your fingertips resting gently on your abdomen. Follow each inhale and exhale like a boat following a steady current. No need to fix your thoughts, just follow the breath. Even if the mind drifts, anchor gently. Each return is itself a moment of practice. Each return strengthens the connection between body and mind. Over time, this minute becomes a launchpad. Carry that clarity into the rest of your tasks. McKeown emphasizes that habit emerges in tiny, consistent acts. This 1-minute exercise, practiced twice daily, lays the foundation for mental resilience. He explains that consistency beats intensity. A daily minute beats a sporadic hour. To bring this home, he uses the fictional vignette of Omar, a project manager in a busy marketing team. Every morning, Omar now spends 60 seconds doing anchored breathing before opening his email. Over a week, he notices something surprising. His responses to stress slow. A critical email no longer triggers his heart to race. Instead, he pauses and breathes. Team meetings feel more focused. Creativity returns in small, unexpected moments. He finds himself framing better campaign ideas before lunch. His energy and clarity feel less like luck and more like an emergent pattern. Anchored breathing is his daily signature for presence. Next, Patrick unpacks the science behind why this works. He explains that slow nasal breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and digest pathway. When the diaphragm moves and carbon dioxide levels rise slightly, blood vessels relax, heart rate stabilizes, and the brain shifts into a calmer, more receptive state. This environment supports neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire, focus, and form new habits around these breath-first anchors. McKeown connects these physiological changes to attention. Instead of attention being this slippery, vague quality, it becomes like a muscle repeatedly lifted, set down, and lifted again, each breath taking another rep. Over time, you build stamina and precision. Anxiety about performance reduces, not because tension disappears, but because the body builds tolerance to stress, breathing through it rather than reacting to it. Section 2. Scaling breath-based focus into daily life. After mastering those first 60 seconds of anchored breathing, McKeown takes us deeper, showing how this simple technique becomes a foundation for sustained clarity throughout the day. In this second section, he shifts the lens from a standalone exercise to an integrated way of being, turning micro-practices into macro change, and helping our breath-based focus hold steady even in the swirl of real-world challenges. McKeown begins by highlighting a common truth. Our days aren't one long stretch of calm. They're punctuated by spikes, moments that trigger stress, urge distractions, or send us spiraling into mental fatigue. These might seem inconsequential, the ping of a notification, the abrupt transition from an inbox glance to a meeting pop-in, an offhand comment from a colleague. But each one chips away at our attention, and by lunchtime, we're bleeding focus. That's why the heart of atomic focus lies in focus resets, short breath-based anchors strategically placed throughout the day. These aren't luxury breaks, they're resilience interventions. Picture this. Instead of a single morning breathing ritual, you anchor your breath before you answer emails, just after walking between meetings, or when you notice tension pulling at your scalp. Each reset, just 30 seconds of low, nasal inhales and exhales, functions like a mini-pause button, recalibrating your nervous system and reclaiming control before you unravel. To bring this to life, McKeown shares the story of Jamal, a high school teacher navigating back-to-back classes. Between class transitions, Jamal began doing 3 steady breaths through his nose, pausing on the threshold, hands pressed lightly to the ribcage. Each breath cleared the actual and mental clutter. Students felt it too. His presence became more grounded, responses calmer, and his energy more consistent throughout the day. Instead of spiraling by afternoon exhaustion, he carried equilibrium in vivid pockets throughout the day. Another practitioner, Lena, a freelance editor working in coffee shops, all too familiar with ambient distractions, began setting silent alarms on her phone every 90 minutes. When one went off, she simply closed her eyes for 40 seconds, inhaling for 4, exhaling for 6. The smells, chatter, and random keyboard noise couldn't pull her away. She was winding back into her center, her breath. Over time, she saw sharper focus, fewer editing mistakes, and a regained sense that she wasn't chasing every stray thought. McKeown underscores that these resets don't interrupt your flow, they protect it. Our attention isn't infinite, it deteriorates. He draws on the concept of attentional depletion, showing that we naturally lose sharpness and begin making errors the longer we stay in task mode. Focus resets reverse that trend, introducing micro-recovery and helping the mind sustain higher quality attention for longer stretches. But how do we build a system around this? McKeown suggests 3 layered strategies. First layer, signal-based anchoring. Choose consistent, predictable triggers, like standing up to stretch, opening a browser, or walking from one room to another. Pair each trigger with a quick nasal breath reset. These microjunctions become embedded in your routine, strengthening your breath focus habit without relying on willpower. Second layer, flexible posture protocols. The magic isn't in the environment, it's in the physiology. Whether standing, seated, or in motion, nasal-anchored breathing works. McKeown offers variations: hands on ribcage while walking, seated breathing with eyes softly focused, and a standing technique where you visualize the oxygen circulating as you inhale and relieve tension as you exhale. These techniques protect your nervous system in any scenario. Third layer, recovery blocks. Every few hours, carve out 2 3-minute recovery spaces. This isn't a meditation session, it's a focused breath session. For example, after a heavy meeting, he advises standing silently with a soft gaze, breathing consciously for 2 minutes, inhale for 4, exhale for 8. It's not downtime, it's a cognitive recharge. To show the potency of this framework, McKeown introduces a case study of Aisha, a software engineer at a rapidly growing startup. Her day began with an anchored breath, but chaos took hold as she dropped into continuous meetings and urgent bug fixes. By afternoon, she felt frazzled, burned out before important code pushes. With the breath reset system, she added breath anchors before every high-priority task and between meetings. She also crafted a 3-minute recovery block before lunch and again before her daily stand-up. The result, bug resolution time dropped, her mood stabilized, and even coworkers noticed her renewed calm. "You just seem more here," one teammate said. She described it like passing through repeated tiny gates throughout the day, a reliable way of returning to herself. McKeown doesn't stop at anecdote, he lays out physiological backing. Each focused breath reset shifts the heart rate variability, HRV, upward, a marker of vagal tone and resilience. He cites studies showing that even brief slow breath interventions improve HRV, cognitive function, and reduce cortisol, all within minutes. In effect, your breath becomes your brain's daily workout routine. Micro-triggers for resilience, micro-reward signals for neuronal networks that grow stronger with each repetition. Next, he addresses inevitable challenges. Forgetting to counter this, use visual cues like a colored post-it on your keyboard and phone reminders. The repetition is what matters, not perfection. Self-judgment: if you miss resets or find the breathing shaky, that's data, not failure. The aim is coherence over time, not a perfect streak. Context sensitivity: in meetings with supervisors or clients, you can do silent belly breathing, eyes on your hands, or even discrete mental counting. The external world doesn't need to change, your internal physiology is still shifting. The book includes a short script you can whisper under your breath: in, pause, out, stable. Using this mentally during high-pressure moments, like a sales call or public speaking, trains your mind to default to breath focus even when you can't physically change posture. Then comes another fictional vignette of Ren, a graphic designer facing a looming creative block. As a deadline approached, she realized her ideas felt stale. Instead of rough brainstorms, she scheduled 3 2-minute recovery blocks during the day. At each, she closed her eyes, breathed slowly, visualized opening pathways in her mind, and exhaled tension. After the third block, she reported sudden clarity. "I felt ideas flow like water, unforced but full." That momentum carried her through her design sprints through the afternoon. To help viewers integrate this, in the video we'd pause again at a pivotal script moment. Invite the audience to do a live reset with us right now. Close your eyes, hands on belly, inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts, exhale for 6. Feel your energy settle, notice your heartbeat. Return now to the moment. This shared breath anchors the concept with embodied experience. McKeown goes on to outline how these resets foster a feedback loop. Each time you breathe, you're training your nervous system to anticipate clarity. Gradually, you need fewer resets. Instead, focus flows more effortlessly. The breathing becomes your baseline, and you experience less mental fatigue, fewer distractions, greater alignment with your tasks. Toward the end of the section, he encourages slow, steady progression. Begin with 1 reset in the morning, add 1 midday, and aim for 3 total by week's end. Track your mental alertness, errors avoided, emotional resilience, and creative capacity. Didn't notice any change? You still got benefits. Stress dropped, HRV improved quietly, even if the effects were subtle. By the close of this section, we've seen how Patrick transforms breathing from an isolated exercise into a lived framework, a scaffold of micro-practices delivered throughout the day. It's not about performance hacks, it's about building a daily architecture of calm, composure, and clarity. Breath becomes the silent partner in every meeting, every deep work session, every creative challenge. Section 3, Thriving Under Pressure, Breath as Your Mental Armor. Every tool can feel effortless in calm waters. But what about when the storm hits, the presentation room turning eyes to you, the unexpected crisis message pinging at your wrist, or the athlete's final lap before the finish line? In Section 3 of Atomic Focus, Patrick McKeown shows us how breath serves as mental armor, a physiological shield that keeps us steady when stakes are high. McKeown begins by revealing a universal truth: pressure hijacks attention. Stress narrows our tunnel of perception, triggers fight or flight responses, and sabotages performance. In those critical seconds before speaking in front of others, when your chest catches, your palms sweat, your mind races, you're in danger of losing your mental clarity. But breathe through it and you reclaim control. He opens with a vivid case of Marcus, a public speaker preparing for a major TEDx talk. The familiar ritual of light rehearsal slipped away as Marcus walked on stage, heart pounding, flurry of self-doubt. The first line barely managed through clenched throat, yet McKeown taught Marcus a pre-performance breathing ritual: 2 sets of box breathing, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold. After just 10 breaths backstage, Marcus reported, "My mind stopped whirling. I felt present with the audience, not trapped in my head." That calm delivery propelled a talk praised for its genuineness and impact. Next, McKeown turns to sports, where the pressure is literal and immediate. He follows an Olympic rower, Sophia, in the final stretch of a 2K race. Legs burning, lungs screaming, every reflex urges her to gasp and panic. Instead, she implements low, powerful nasal breathing, using exhale to push tension off each stroke. The result: nerves steadied, coordination sharpened, and runs felt almost like flow under fire. This breath-grounded focus didn't just help her finish, it helped her win. These performance anchors, pre-task breath rituals McKeown calls them, consistently appear across high-pressure scenarios. He outlines 3 types. First type, preparation anchors. Short breathing cycle before you begin, editing a key document, entering a meeting, picking up the phone to ask for a raise. These act like priming an engine. Second type, emotional anchors. When you feel tension surge, a triggering topic, a critical comment, surprise frustration, use a slow inhale-exhale cycle keyed to 6-second exhales. This lengthens your parasympathetic response, slings stress out of your bones, and helps you choose your response. Third type, recovery anchors. Immediately after the event, e.g., stepping off stage, reading an upsetting message, take 2 minutes of breath-focused recovery. This ensures emotion doesn't linger and disrupt the next task. Importantly, McKeown doesn't treat these anchors as timeouts. They're covert, embodied shifts that happen in a single breath, yet reshape entire moments. A compelling narrative unfolds around Hina, a negotiator working sensitive cross-cultural deals. She often had to maintain composure through tense back and forth. McKeown coached her to start every negotiation with 3 silent bridge breaths: inhale for 3, exhale for 5, visualizing the other party's perspective at each exhale. Within weeks, she felt more empathetic, less reactive, deal outcomes improved, and she was known as unflappable. McKeown then dives deeper into the physiology. When we're stressed, the amygdala signals for cortisol and adrenaline. Breathing slowly through the nose interrupts that cascade at the vagus nerve level, raising parasympathetic activation, reducing cortisol, increasing HRV, and improving prefrontal cortex function. That means better decision-making, clearer speech, sharper memory, even under duress. He cites research showing that even 10 breaths can shift HRV and neurochemical markers, enough to measurably improve decision-making in courtrooms, operating theaters, and battlefield simulations. For instance, one study found that Special Forces personnel who practiced slow nasal breathing under pressure experienced significantly lower perceived stress and faster response times. Those seconds save lives. Next, McKeown examines emotional RAM behavior, the urge to lash out or withdraw when frustrated. He tells the story of Amir, a manager whose patience was thin in tense moments. When a major deliverable hit a snag, his default was terse emails and snapped updates. But after learning to notice the rising heat in his body and apply 6-second exhales with internal counting, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he said, "It literally braked me before I hit the send button." His responses became more considered. His inbox never had to apologize for his tone again. The book provides scripts for in-the-moment self-coaching, phrases like inhale calm, exhale clarity, or counting breaths mentally during tense emails. Over time, breath becomes the interrupt that separates stimulus from response. Then comes another pausable moment in the video, a guided performance anchor drill. Invite the audience to close their eyes. Inhale through the nose for 4 counts, hold 2, exhale for 6, hold 2, repeat 4 times. Feel the subtle sinking of the breath, the lengthening of the exhale, the steadying of the heart and mind. McKeown warns, however, that technique alone isn't enough. These tools need confidence, and confidence is built through small, repeated application. He suggests journaling before action and after action notes. What did your mind feel? How many breaths did you notice a shift? This reflection turns breathing from a trick into a self-trusted system. He then brings in a fictional vignette of Maya, a surgeon. On days with complex surgeries, emotions run high. She begins with breaths in scrub room, continues with breaths between steps during the operation, and finishes with recovery breath in the hallway. Her performance becomes less variable. Peers say she's calm on chaos, but more importantly, she feels safer, more present, and awake. As Section 3 draws to a close, McKeown expands vision, breath as core of emotional resilience training. You're not just surviving pressure, you're building an operating system that converts stress into clarity, fear into presence, urgency into composure. The quiet tagline here is powerful. When your breath is steady, everything else follows. We finish the section knowing that focus under fire isn't luck, it's a practiced, physiologically anchored skill. Section 4, Living Atomic Focus, From Practice to Lifestyle. In the final act of Atomic Focus, Patrick McKeown brings breathwork full circle, transforming it from a tool to a lifestyle. This isn't a collection of exercises you pull out when you remember. It's a reframed way of thinking, breathing, and being. Over time, breath becomes something you live through. We begin with a powerful observation. Habits that stick aren't bolted on, they grow organically, rooted in identity and environment. McKeown argues that anchoring focus through breath isn't a one-off fix, it's a way of structuring your day, your workspace, and your mindset. It's aligning your body-head space with how you want to show up daily. He suggests that atomic focus isn't just a system, it's a personal operating rhythm. He unfolds the vision by showing how breath focus integrates across 4 spheres: space, routine, relationships, and purpose. 1. Designing your focus-friendly space. McKeown emphasizes that small environment tweaks reinforce breath cues. Begin with your immediate space. Visual anchors like a simple framed quote or a leaf on your desk that reminds you to breathe and return. Subtle scent associations, such as a lavender dab or citrus oil during resets, to condition calm. Airflow reminders, keeping a window or fan running to bring a physical sense of breath space. Over weeks, these cues stop being reminders, they become triggers. Your brain begins to associate the space with focus. Just entering the room primes your respiration for clarity. He walks through a breathing tour of a home office. Inhale near the door beside a plant. Take reset breaths by the monitor before deep work. Exhale on a brief walk to the tea station. All intentional microenvironments that scaffold attention. 2. Structuring your routine as breath-led. Routines are rhythms. McKeown suggests connecting breath anchors to existing rituals, morning beverages, car rides, pre-meeting setups, to the point where breath becomes the pause between each step. Consider the oxygen start. Upon waking, sit on the edge of your bed, place a hand on your belly, and take 6 soft nasal breaths before your feet hit the floor. This calms your system before morning stimulation begins. Lunch becomes a midpoint performance checkpoint. 3 anchored breaths after finishing your meal, eyes closed, shoulders softened, an intentional re-entry back to work post-break. Even bedtime gets a breath routine. Inhale rejuvenation, exhale release, 5 breaths to transition your system into restorative mode. These breath-integrated routines create atomic, small but potent, moments that accumulate. What used to feel like dead zones between activities now become transitions that matter. 3. Breath in connection with others and self. McKeown expands focus to include relational and self-awareness. He highlights how breath shapes presence not just for you, but for others. He recounts a leadership cohort activity. Pairs practice synchronous breathing, where one person leads a pattern and the other matches it. This cultivates empathy, as shared physiology fosters shared calm. Leaders reported better listening, less reactive responses, deeper trust. Similarly, he explores self-compassion breathwork when confronted with internal stressors like self-criticism. A slow inhale followed by a long exhale to 4 count, paired with a mental phrase like "I'm here, I'm enough," helps reset inner dialogue and stabilize inner voice. It turns breath into a cushion for our internal experience. 4. Purpose-driven focus, what breath enables. Finally, McKeown aligns breath practice with personal mission. It's one thing to use breath for calm. It's another to use it as a compass toward your deeper goals. He illustrates with Tamor, a social entrepreneur rebuilding rural schools in Pakistan. His days were chaotic, juggling logistics, meetings, fundraising. He adopted early morning long exhale breathing while visualizing chosen impact, children reading, communities thriving. The breath anchored his vision, aligning each busy minute to a larger purpose, making the chaos feel meaningful rather than distracting. These moments, micro, intentional, and full of purpose, are what McKeown calls meaningful atomic actions. Building your atomic focus framework. McKeown doesn't just paint the picture, he gives a template. Choose 2-3 core spaces you'll breathe into deeply each day. Identify 4-5 routine nodes, times in the day you can layer breath anchors into habitual activities. Pick one relational practice, like synchronous breathing or breath check-in with a partner. Anchor purpose, link a daily breath session with your mission or identity, turning practice from habit into meaning. He suggests tracking these in a focus log. When did the breath happen? How did it change your engagement? What feelings arose? Over weeks, the log reveals patterns. When you breathe at specific moments, mental clarity sparks. When you leave these nodes out, fatigue deepens. Awareness converts into wisdom on yourself, your patterns, your focus thresholds. Section 5, Mastery and Momentum, Building a Sustainable Breath-Focused Life. Now that you've lived atomic focus, inhabiting breath-fueled spaces, routines, relationships, and purpose, the final section turns the page to mastery and momentum. Patrick McKeown invites us to go beyond daily structure into transformation, where breath-based focus becomes second nature, adaptive, and self-sustaining, even as our lives and challenges evolve. 1. Evolution through cycles. McKeown begins by explaining that long-term growth isn't linear. It moves in cycles of practice, reflection, and adaptation. He reminds us that habits naturally stabilize and eventually plateau. When that happens, it's easy to assume your breath practice is done. Instead, he encourages a phase of intentional recalibration every 4-6 weeks. Reflect what routines spark consistent clarity, what resets didn't stick. Refresh, adjust breath counts. Maybe evolve from 4-6 inhales-exhales to 5-8 or vary hold times. Recommit, set new intentions, greater creativity, emotional resilience, leadership presence. This cyclical approach prevents routine from turning into autopilot. It keeps breath awareness alive and relevant to current goals. 2. Expanding awareness beyond the breath. Next, McKeown introduces the idea of multisensory anchoring, the advanced level where breath is the driver, but not the only guide. Here's what he outlines. Sound anchors, breathing to calming tones, soft music, wind chimes, or nature sounds. Movement anchors, integrating breath into physical flow, stretching, walking, or gentle yoga sequences. Mind anchors, layering a single word of intention, e.g., steady, open, trust, onto each exhale. By combining breath with other senses, awareness deepens. It cultivates a more fully embodied presence, helpful in unfamiliar or stressful environments where breath alone might not hold attention. 3. Breath-driven creativity and insight. True mastery happens when breath becomes a creative catalyst. McKeown uses artist interviews, and weathered creative professionals to show how rhythmic nasal breathing prompts subtle brain states ideal for inspiration. Alpha-theta brainwave shifts, where the border between conscious and subconscious softens, letting new ideas emerge. Metafocus, an observational mode where you're aware of your thoughts, but not caught in them. This supports problem-solving and visioning. He invites you to use breath anchors during ideation. Settle into a pattern, inhale for 4, exhale for 6, then bring attention to a question you're wrestling with. After a few cycles, insights often appear, not forcefully, but gently, as if invited. The book shares a scene of an entrepreneur, Hassan, staring at a stark whiteboard. He'd hit a creative wall, but after a few mindful breaths, patterns and connections emerged, and he sketched a new service concept. The movement felt organic, no breakthrough moment, just clarity seeded by breath. 4. Peer practice and collective resonance. McKeown stresses that breath-based focus is resilient when practiced together. He encourages forming breath circles, groups of 3-5 people meeting weekly to share recent insights from breath practice. Practice 3-minute group breathing sessions. Reflect on personal and collective growth. He recounts a small team at a design firm whose productivity and emotional cohesion surged after they began weekly group breaths. People trusted each other more, gave feedback more mindfully, and worked better through creative disagreements. In subtle ways, the breath became a culture code, a way the group signaled calm, thoughtfulness, and shared presence. 5. Teaching breath, becoming a guide. Finally, McKeown explores true mastery, teaching others. When you're ready, he encourages passing breath focus forward. Invite someone to sit with you for 3 breaths before a conversation. Lead a short team breathing, reset at the start of meetings. Share your story, how anchoring your breath shaped a breakthrough for you. He stresses care. You're not a coach, but a conduit. Teaching breath holds as much potential for growth for the giver as the receiver. 6. Mapping your breath legacy. McKeown ends Atomic Focus with a breath legacy map, a personalized plan spanning the next 6 months. Mastery of atomic focus isn't about perfection. It's about moment-to-moment presence, sustained through cycles of practice, refinement, shared experience, and mentorship. Breath becomes your personal legacy, deepening clarity, fostering creativity, and anchoring community. Conclusion. So here we are. We began with a single breath, a moment you might have overlooked this morning, as your mind sprinted into tasks, tabs, and timelines. And yet that breath, that simple, silent inhale and exhale, has led us through a transformation. Because as Patrick McKeown teaches in Atomic Focus, your greatest power to reclaim attention, clarity, and calm isn't in your calendar or your caffeine. It's in your lungs, it's in your rhythm, it's in you. You've seen how focus doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from anchoring deeper, using breath to settle the noise, to slow the spin, to return to the task in front of you with presence and purpose. We walked alongside Sarah, the distracted architect, who discovered that 5 deep breaths could reshape her day. We stood in the hallway with Jamal, the teacher who found his center between classes. We watched Hina breathe before high-stakes negotiations, Ren open her creative floodgates, and Bilal anchor himself in a world on fire. Their stories aren't special. They're simply examples of what happens when you learn to pause, to reset, to breathe with intention. Atomic Focus isn't about turning you into a monk. It's about helping you show up fully, in the meeting, on the stage, at your desk, with your family. It's about shifting from scattered to steady, from reactive to resilient, from distracted to deeply engaged. So here's your moment. Close your eyes. 1 breath in, 1 breath out. That's your beginning. If this message resonated, if something in you feels called to move slower, breathe deeper, and live sharper, then keep going. Reflect on what part of today's journey you'll carry forward. Try your first reset breath before your next task. Invite someone you trust to breathe with you. Let the breath become your compass. And if this spoke to you, drop a comment below. What's one moment today you want to meet with more focus? Share your breath story. Subscribe for more insights like this. And remember, no matter how far you drift, your breath is always here, ready to bring you home. Until next time, breathe well, live clear, and stay present.